joined by Inter Miami managing owner Jorge Mas. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll begin with a statement.
I apologize for the technical difficulties here, but I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. As you all know, I'm Jorge Mas, the owner of Inter Miami, and I want to take the time today to address the recent announcement of the suspension of Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba for the game tomorrow against Cincinnati, based on their non-attendance to the MLS All-Star game this past Wednesday in Austin. And I want to, first of all, reiterate that Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba are the consummate professionals. As I said on multiple occasions, Lionel Messi is a competitive beast who only wants to win and play games and represent his club and this league with honor and dignity, as he has, throughout his career. During the course of this year, we have to date played already 33 games. I consider each and every game that Inter Miami plays an all-star game for obvious reasons. And I want to today express, our full support both to Lionel and to Jordi, as a decision for them to sit this week was a decision made by the club. And I think that's an important point. They were coming off a run of 9 games in 35 days. Hard games. The last 2 games previous to this Wednesday were games on the road. On Wednesday at Cincinnati, on Saturday in New York. We're facing a game tomorrow, and we're facing a course of 10 games over the next 34 days. There is a rule in the MLS, which if they miss the All-Star game, they're suspended for 1 game. I believe it's a bad rule, but it's a rule nonetheless. And it's a bad rule because I think it puts the players in an untenable position to have to choose between participating in an all-star festivity, which at the end is an exhibition match, or choosing a game, a regular season game that I think matters. And I admire both Lionel and Jordi for always thinking of club first. Lionel and Jordi would have been faced, with either missing a game in New York, which was an amazing display of football skills by our team and by Lionel Messi, which rounds have made around the world, then participate in the All-Star game in order to be able to play against Cincinnati. Having to put a player in a position to have to choose, and again, the ones that get penalized are the club, the fans, sponsors, TV, Apple, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that the punishment for the rule is frankly draconian. And I think that, for one reason or another, it served its purpose for many years in the MLS. But I think, and I allude to what the commissioner said in his statement, that the rule needs to be looked at. I expressed our disagreement with the decision that the league made, and I had conversations with the commissioner this morning and through late last night. But notwithstanding that, the decision is what it is and stands with MLS. But I want to assure everyone that, Lionel and Jordi have acted in a way commensurate with what the club would want. I think it goes without saying that, our team has represented Major League Soccer this year in an exemplary way, not only with our performance in Club World Cup and becoming the first team to beat a European squad in a regular season game or a match that counts, but the congestion in the schedule is one which has become untenable. Traveling to Cincinnati on Wednesday, traveling to New York on Saturday, having traveled to Austin on Wednesday, having flown back to Miami and arrived this morning and playing a game against Cincinnati, which is an important competitive game with the leaders in our conference, would have meant 4 games in 10 days for these players. I think those are all things that needed to take account, should have been valued. The decision is what it is, but it is what it is. But I want to make sure then that I address, any questions relating to that. I'll now make some comments in Spanish.
Okay. Hi, Jorge. Thank you for taking the time to do this and explain your point of view. I wanted to ask if it was a club decision that was already made and, that they were going to rest. They obviously needed the rest. There's no argument with all of that. Why was that not expressed to the league. From what Don Garber said, it was expressed to the league on Wednesday, the day of the game. Was there any conversation before that that they were not going to be available to the game? Thank you.
There were conversations Monday evening and Tuesday about their attendance or not. It was in the air. They would not have played probably in the game, but their attendance, if they went, if they just went, right? You know, and I think that both of them decided against that for obvious reasons, because it would take away from their preparation. You know, the communication on this on all ends probably wasn't handled ideally. But it was all a very, very short time frame. You know, the players got here on Sunday. You know, listen, if the players would have maybe not played in New York or felt amazing and wanted to attend the All-Star game, that was a different situation, and that's what was evaluated throughout the day on Monday. As I alluded to earlier, the rule, you know, and I think the penalty of the rule is bad. You know, if they're players under extenuating circumstances that can attend or want to attend, that's obviously the choice of the players and the clubs. But for us, it was important to prioritize their health over more travel, because they had come off, you know, 9 hours of flights in the previous 3 days, and making sure that they're ready for our run of games coming up now, because it's important that they be in the best shape possible. But there was communication Monday, Tuesday. There wasn't communication previous to that. So that was our communications with the league.
Thank you.
Paul Tenorio.
Thanks so much, Jorge, for doing this. I wonder, who did you deliver the news to, Leo and Jordi? What was Leo's reaction? Is there any concern of the impact this has for Leo and his relationship with the league, or anything even involving something like the extension? Thank you.
They were communicated a few hours ago when it was confirmed. Their reaction was as expected. That wasn't obviously was not a positive reaction. They want to compete. They want to play games. That's what they're here for, to play and win. They understand the magnitude of tomorrow's night's game. So no, the reaction was exactly as expected out of two competitive players who don't understand the decision, who don't understand, you know, why not attending an exhibition match leads directly to a suspension. The rule is what it is, but they don't understand it. As I said before, I don't agree with the rule. I have made my thoughts known to the commissioner, you know, very plainly. I think the rule it is going to change, but that's neither here nor there. But their reaction was as I expected, and they were, you know, they were extremely upset, both of them.
Safi, then Lizzie.
Hey, Jorge, thank you so much for the time here. Regarding Messi's workload, I mean, you know, after the Club World Cup, he's playing against last place Montreal with a big lead. You guys are down 3-0 in Cincinnati, and he's still playing, you know, the last 20 minutes of the game. You're up 3-1, and he scores 2 goals in New York. Obviously a great moment, but still an opportunity for him to get rest at that point. At what point do you maybe speak to Javier Mascherano, or you speak to Messi and say, hey, there's certain games you need to play just 60, or certain games you play 45, or certain games you play 80, and you don't play the full 90. And obviously, you know, we know Messi wants to play every minute of every game. You know, how do you guys manage that as a franchise moving forward? Because with the World Cup next year as well.
When Messi plays 90 minutes plus. If you see him playing less than 90 minutes, he's injured. That is how Lionel has played here and will continue to play here. Load management is on Lionel Messi. You know, logic would tell you we'd love him to sit with big leads. It's not going to happen. Lionel Messi, when he steps on the pitch, will step off the pitch when the final whistle blows.
We'll go to Lizzie next, and then the next round of questions is going to be Alex Silverman, Jose Rodriguez, and Petrocelli. Go ahead, Lizzie.
Hi, Jorge. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'd love to hear the club's perspective on the scheduling of the All-Star. I know there's a lot of different leagues that may put it at different points of the calendar, and Mascherano touched on this this morning, but I'd love to hear your and the club perspective on the scheduling aspect of the All-Star game.
Listen, I think the fact how it's scheduled, I understand schedule congestion, but we have to find a way where the All-Star game gives players some time before and or after. There are, I believe, 6 games this evening of Major League Soccer. That is less than 48 hours since playing in an All-Star game. That's untenable, and not right and not fair to the players and the clubs that sent players to the All-Star game. So, the ideal situation would be that either before or after the All-Star game, as Javier Mascherano said this morning, the players have some days off so that they can enjoy their time at an All-Star game, because ultimately it is, it's an exhibition, but it should be something enjoyable among players in Major League Soccer. It's untenable. For example, if faced with this situation next year, where we have an away game on Saturday, the All-Star game's on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and we have a game on Saturday, an important game, we're going to be in the same boat, in the same situation as our other players and other teams. And notwithstanding the fact that, there's a scheduling issue. Yes. So I think that needs to be addressed in order so that the All-Star game can be held in a time period where it's not impacting, the performance of the players in important games. Because at the end, this goes to sporting integrity. The game tomorrow night against Cincinnati, I'm sure that Coach Noonan would want to face our team with everyone and fully loaded, as I'd love to face Cincinnati fully loaded. But tomorrow night, that's not going to be the case.
Alex Silverman, then Jose Rodriguez.
Hi there. You mentioned that this decision is, a disservice to sponsors and media. But of course, there are league sponsors that are associated with the All-Star game. How do you kind of feel the league needs to balance, the club's sponsors that are, going to miss out on having Leo in the lineup tomorrow with the league sponsors that invest a lot in the All-Star game?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that question. The MLS All-Star game should be above any individual players. Whether you have the top 25 players or 23 of them or 27 of the top 30, or you name more people to the All-Star game, the All-Star game should thrive irrespective of the individual players, be it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 players. Obviously, Lionel Messi is Lionel Messi. He is different. He has completely changed the economics of this league for every single club, every team, every sponsor, the league, media, etc. He's important. But at the end of the day, Lionel Messi wants to play in competitive matches. If he would have gone on Wednesday, he would have played Mac 15, 30 minutes. Great, but at the end of the day, that's with league corporate sponsors. League corporate sponsors are already taking advantage of Lionel Messi's presence in the league because they are league sponsors. So it's a question of how do you make the MLS All-Star game an event that does not kill the management load on their physical ability to perform. You can still have players attend, and it's a scheduling issue with that. But no doubt, Lionel not being here in this game tomorrow is going to have an impact. It's going to have an impact on viewership, ticketing, et cetera, et cetera. So it has a negative impact. There's no doubt. Not to mention the fact of if it happened to be that tomorrow night's game would have been away, which was the first game after the All-Star game, Lionel Messi has created for the first time in the league history $10 million gates where he goes. Clubs change stadiums so that Lionel Messi can perform and play and Inter Miami can play. And that's an amazing asset and an amazing thing for the league. I'm just hopeful that in the future we can manage, the All-Star game scheduling with the obvious, benefits that Lionel has brought to our league.
Beyond your conversation with Don Garber, is there any kind of appeals process to this rule that you call draconian? And also, with Messi and Alba not being suspended for tomorrow's game, and you talked about what a gate they are and what an appeal to fans they are they even allowed in the facility for tomorrow's game, or do they have to be out completely?
The answer, there's an appeals process. There's not. So the answer to that is no. And in terms of being tomorrow at the game, I'd imagine they'd be able to go to the game. I don't know. I don't know those details or rules, but I'd imagine they can be at the game. I don't know the answer to that question. I apologize.
Okay. you said it was a club decision that was made, presumably knowledge of this rule that existed. It was used for Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the past, of course. So were the league not in a position where once the club had made this decision, you're asking effectively for a waiver for Messi and Alba, and that other people like Evander playing for Cincinnati would turn around and say it's one rule for Messi and one rule for the rest of us? Was that not the position the league found itself in?
I could go on about that, but the position the league found itself in was one. For example, and you mentioned Evander from Cincinnati, and I don't know their management load. I don't know how many games are coming off, etc. But if Evander, in order to take care of his health, to be in a position to play against Inter Miami tomorrow night, made a decision to not go to the All-Star game, to be in peak form tomorrow, there should have been a waiver, and Evander should have been allowed to not participate in the All-Star game, just like any other player. I think that our league should take a position that you want your best players and your best stars in peak physical condition for competitive games during the regular season. That is what we wanted. Some conversations existed. Does an appearance at the All-Star game count? You don't play, etc. So listen, that's water under the bridge. We are where we are. They will not be playing tomorrow night. We will see rule changes. Of what's happening, what happened with Zlatan, and I understand in 2018, it's a super different league. I don't think anything that the MLS did in 2018 should apply in 2025, where we've seen the magnitude of change of where our league is at. There's no doubt that there's a before and after Lionel Messi in this league. The things that we're seeing of a global nature are extraordinary. For example, in the Club World Cup, our game against Paris Saint-Germain, in the round of 16, I can share, was viewed globally by close to 30 million people. If you would have told me, and somebody would have told an MLS team in 2018 that they'd be in a World Club tournament and 30 million people would be watching that game, I think they would have signed on the dotted line at the time. But that's a reality that we're living in today, and it's a good reality and a great reality. And I think we just have to adapt rules so that we don't keep our greatest players off the pitch.
We will do the last two questions, Franco, and then Federico.
Thank you, Rafa. Hey, Jorge. You were asked a couple times, one in English, one in Spanish. So I'll just follow up with it because I don't think you addressed them. What does this do, or how does this impact any negotiations with Messi for his future stay? Obviously, he hasn't signed anything yet officially. Everyone's waiting for it, but I mean, what does this do in terms of that renegotiation process?
Well, listen, I alluded to earlier, he's very upset, extremely upset today, as expected. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful it doesn't have an impact long term. Will it have an impact, initially in the player's perception of how the league rules work, et cetera? Absolutely, no doubt. But listen, I'm hopeful. We're taking advantage of this window. We're gonna strengthen our roster. We're gonna bring in, amazing players. We're gonna continue building, because my personal opinion of every single move that Major League Soccer should make relating to roster and players should be with the golden objective of winning our Champions League, of winning our CONCACAF Champions League, because the next three winners in the next 3 years will qualify for the Club World Cup in 2029. I think there is no greater event in world soccer than a club making that tournament. I think that the focus of our league should have multiple teams as they want to spend to be able to compete and win the Champions League. And I remind that only one MLS team has won a Champions League, which is Seattle, and I'm hopeful that can change. So that's my opinion on that issue.
Why haven't we heard from a sporting director? Sorry, I have to sneak this in here because we don't get to talk to you much throughout the year. Why haven't we heard from a sporting director, an announcement on a sporting director at any point this year?
You'll be hearing throughout this window and signings from our sporting directors. So just stay tuned.